Shalom Aleichem Rabotai and a Shavua Tov. Mishnah Yomi is continuing in the first parak of Bikkurim. And yesterday we talked about a convert being eligible to bring Bikkurim, and the Mishnah had ruled that he could, but not read the passages. And the Rambam, as we explained, said he could also read the passages because he is the descendant of Avraham Avinu. Now Mishnah Hay is a related topic. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Isha bat Gerim, the daughter of two converts, both the mother and the father converted to Judaism, and Mazel Tov had a daughter. Lo tinasi lekehuna, she should not marry a Kohen. Ajte imam Yisrael, unless her mother is born as a Jew. And the Mepharshim say this is also if her father was born a Jew. And the Rambam adds something really amazing. The Rambam says on this Mishnah that even if she had a grandparent or another ancestor who was Jewish, even if Lamaisa, her own parents were not born halachically Jewish, meaning they did not have a Jewish mother, but somewhere she had a grandfather who was Jewish or even more removed, then she would be able to marry a Kohen. She's, again, the daughter of two people who converted to Judaism. It sometimes comes up that you might meet someone who has a Jewish grandparent or a Jewish father, and they're not halachically Jewish. But we see from this concept in the Rambam, there might be an Inyan to try to be mekarev such a person. And of course, I'm not paskening lemaisa. We don't pasken from the Mishnah, and kal v'chomer we don't pasken from my observations and ramblings about the Mishnah. So it's of course a shaila for a qualified posek, but there's certainly an Inyan from this Mishnah and from the Rambam to, of course, deal positively with everyone and try to have hashpah on everyone, but certainly even more so in that situation. The Mishnah continues, Echad Gerim ve'echad Avodim Mishachrorim, whether they are actually converts or they were an Eved Kanani who was then freed. An Eved Kanani, remember, is a quasi-Jew. He's been in the mikveh and he's obligated in the mitzvah to lo ta'aseh, but he's not fully Jewish until he's freed. At that point, he's really Jewish. Afilu al Dorot, even after 10 generations, Ajli min Yisrael. So they're still considered descendants of converts or of Avodim Mishachrorim until someone in their lineage is Jewish, even up to 10 generations. Of course, it's fairly likely over those 10 generations that the family has married into other Jewish families, and, everyone's Baruch Hashem, one big happy family. The Mefarshim point out that the psak here was lo tinase, and that sounds like a lechatchila. Of course, again, not paskening from the Mishnah, but it sounds like, it's a shaila, but it sounds like if a Kohen married such a person that b'diavad they would stay married. This is not such a psul like a Kohen marrying other certain things that are biblically forbidden. But of course, it's a shaila for your qualified posek. We don't paskin from the Mishnah Yomi. Mishnah continues, ha'apotropos, ha'shaliach, ha'eved isha, tumtum androgonus, maviin velo korin. They can bring bikorim, but not read the parsha. Shein cholim lamar asher natati li Hashem. They can't say, this is from the land Hashem gave you. So who are these people? The apotropos is the executor of the estate, or the guardian. We actually used this term many times in the Daf Yomi in Ketuvot. Mazel Tov recently finished Ketuvot, and Bli Neder started Nedarim. So the apotropos would be appointed as a guardian if there are minor children to manage the estate and make sure they're taken care of, sell the assets and collect the debts and make sure they're okay. So if the children are minors and they can't bring the bikurim themselves, the apotropos, the guardian of the estate, would bring it on their behalf. So he doesn't bikuri. A shaliach, also someone who's sent as an agent or a messenger, if the owner can't come himself. An Evid on behalf of his master, of a Isha, and a woman. Interestingly, women can get land. We know from the Benot Slavchad, women can get land in Eretz Yisrael, but that was midin Yerusha. They were inheriting their father's chelik. It wasn't midin Chalukah. The Chalukah of Eretz Yisrael, which is related to the land for Bikurim, was only for the men. So similarly, the tumtum is a suffix. We don't know if he's actually a man or a woman because he was born with some sort of membrane obscuring his private parts, so we're not sure what he is. And again, the Chalukah was only for Zachar Vadai, for we know he's a man. Androgynous has both sets of private parts, so he's not Vadai a Zachar because he has both aspects. So these people are in the category of Mavin velo Kohen. They should bring the Bikurim, but they can't say Asher Natati li Hashem because that was Midin Chalukah of Eretz Yisrael, which was only to Zacharim. Mishnah Vav, Hakone Shnei Ilanot, Betoch Shel Haver. Someone bought 2 trees in his neighbor's property. It's not, he doesn't own the land, he owns the trees. Maybe ve'eno koreh. He brings Bikkurim, but he doesn't recite the passage. The partner explains there's a suffix if he owns any land rights under these trees or only the trees themselves without the land. Without the land, he can't read the parsha. Rabbi Meir Omer Mevi V'Koreh. Rabbi Meir says he does acquire property rights under the trees so he can read the parsha. Yovish Hamayan, if the well dried up, the spring that was watering these trees dried up, Niktzal Sa'ilon, or he harvested the fruit and then they had to cut down the tree, it dried up. Mevi ve'enokore, he brings, but he doesn't recite the passage. He doesn't really have the land anymore. The land isn't fruitful or the tree isn't fruit-bearing anymore. But Yehuda Omer Mevi ve'kore. Yehuda says, Lamaisa, it made fruit before it dried up, so he could still recite the passage. Now, the Mishnah turns to the time limit. So we've discussed we couldn't bring before Atzeres. So the Mishnah says, Me'atzeret, Shavuot, V'ad Hag, the Hag we just had, Hag Sukkot, Mevi V'korei. We bring Bikurim and we recite the passage. Men Hag ad Chanukah, from after, where we're holding right now, Rabbi Osai, after Sukkot until Chanukah, Mevi V'eno Korei. He brings, but he does not recite the passage. Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera Omer, Mevi V'korei. He says you could also recite the passage. The Bartanura says that the Pasuk says, V'samachta b'chol hatuv. Regarding Bikurim, it says, you will rejoice in all the goodness. So he says we need Bizman Simcha. And Bizman Simcha is Metzeres v'adachag. Why? She'adam meloket v'ato perota v'samach. Because this is the time of harvesting, is between Shavuot and Chag. So people are very happy. There's a lot of produce. They're seeing how much Hashem has given them. So it's the Zman Simcha. And Bardner explains later, it's until Chanukah, because you still have Mitzion Ba'artzecha, there's still a lot of produce around on the land, up until Chanukah. And Rabbi Yehuda ben Betera says that you could still be Koreh, because he doesn't have the drasha of Simcha. It doesn't have to be Davka Bizman Simcha, referring to produce being on the land. He says it could be the Simcha you already had of harvesting, even though you're bringing them after Chanukah. Shkoyach Rabosai.